My name is Jessica Turner, and I am 22 years old now, but the memories of my childhood in Franklin, Tennessee, still feel as fresh as the humid air on a July afternoon. If you have ever been to Franklin, you know, it is the kind of place where people care a lot about how things look from the outside. We have the beautiful historic downtown with the brick sidewalks and the white picket fences and the big old houses that look like they belong in a movie. My family lived in one of those houses, and to our neighbors, we looked like the perfect Southern family. My mother was always dressed in her Sunday best, and my father worked a high-paying job that kept us in the best clothes and the newest cars. But inside that house behind those heavy oak doors, things were not perfect at all. I grew up with a sister named Madison, who was 3 years older than me, and she was the source of every bit of pain I felt for the first 18 years of my life. Madison was beautiful in that way that made people overlook her flaws. She had long blonde hair and bright blue eyes and a smile that could melt butter, but that smile was a mask. To me, she was a monster. She was horribly abusive in every way a person can be. She did not just pick on me like a normal older sister might do. She did not just steal my clothes or tell me I was annoying. Madison took all the rage and hate she had toward our absent father, and she decided to dump it all on me. Our father was gone a lot for work, and when he was home, he was distant and cold. Madison hated him for it, but she was too afraid to confront him, so she turned me into her personal punching bag. She tried to take my life on several occasions, and I am not being dramatic when I say that. One time she held a pillow over my face until I saw stars, and another time she pushed me into the deep end of the pool when I was only 5 and could not swim yet. She watched me struggle from the side of the pool with a look of pure boredom on her face until our housekeeper ran out and jumped in to save me. There was physical abuse and emotional abuse and verbal abuse every single day. She knew exactly what to say to make me feel like I was nothing. She would call me ugly and stupid and tell me that our parents only kept me around because they felt sorry for me. The worst part was when she targeted the family dog. We had a sweet golden retriever named Buddy, who was the only source of comfort I had. Whenever Madison saw me sitting on the floor petting Buddy and looking even a little bit happy, she would lose her mind. She hated seeing any semblance of happiness on my face. One afternoon, she walked into the living room and saw me hugging Buddy, and she reached down and ripped him away from me by his collar so hard that he whimpered in pain. She threw him into the laundry room and locked the door just because she wanted to see the tears in my eyes. That was the day something inside of me finally broke. I realized that I could not just sit there and take it anymore. I had spent years being the victim and waiting for my mother to notice or for my father to come home and fix things, but that was never going to happen. My mother was too busy pretending everything was fine, and my father was a ghost. I had to find a way to fight back. After a while, I learned how to return the hate verbally. I got quick with my tongue, and I learned how to poke at her insecurities about her grades or her friends, but I knew I could never win a physical fight with her. Madison was bigger and stronger, and she would scream bloody murder if I ever tried to push her back. She would act like I was the one attacking her, and she would get me in trouble with my parents. I realized that if I wanted real revenge, I had to be smarter than her. I had to be sneaky. Madison was an emotionally volatile person, and I knew I could use her own vanity against her. When I was 12 years old, there was one week where she was being particularly nasty toward me. It was a hot week in June, and the air was thick with the smell of honeysuckle and cut grass. Madison had been on a rampage since Monday because she had a big country music concert she was going to with her friends that weekend. She wanted everything to be perfect for that concert. She had a new denim skirt and cowgirl boots, and she spent hours practicing her makeup in the mirror. Every time I walked past her room, she would find a reason to scream at me. She threw a heavy hairbrush at my head because I breathed too loud in the hallway. She told me I was a pathetic loser who would never have friends like she did. Every time I found myself at the receiving end of one of her outbursts, I would play along. I would pretend to cry, and I would storm off into my room, making sure to slam the door loud enough so she could hear it. I wanted her to feel like she had won. She felt accomplished once she saw me start crying, and she would always head downstairs to watch television with a smug look on her face. Little did she know that as soon as my door was shut, the tears would stop, and a sinister grin would appear on my face. I was not crying because she hurt my feelings. I was crying because I was an actress, and I was setting the stage for her downfall. Starting on Monday of that week, I had stashed a secret weapon in my closet. My father had bought these high-intensity wasp traps for the back porch because the Tennessee heat always brought out the yellow jackets and hornets. These traps used a special liquid bait that smelled like sweet rotting fruit to attract the wasps, and once they got inside, they could not get out. The bait was incredibly sticky, and it had a very distinct pungent smell that lingered on everything it touched. We shared a Jack and Jill bathroom, which meant there was a door from my room and a door from her room that led into the same small bathroom with 2 sinks and a shower. This was the perfect setup for my plan. Every time I retreated to my room after one of her bullying sessions, I would wait until I heard her go downstairs. Then I would creep into the bathroom and lock her door from the inside. I would take just under a tablespoon of the wasp trap solution and split it between her expensive shampoo and conditioner bottles. I knew she loved those bottles because they cost $20 each, and she bragged about how they made her hair shine. The solution was clear enough that it did not change the color of the liquid much, but it was thick and oily. On Tuesday, she spent the whole morning making fun of my weight and telling me that no boy would ever love a girl who looked like me. I went to my room and cried my fake tears, and then I added another dose to her bottles. On Wednesday, she told me she wished I had never been born because I was a stain on the family reputation. I added more solution. On Thursday, she stole my favorite necklace and broke it right in front of me just to see the look on my face. I did not even have to pretend to be mad that time, but I still went to my room and did my job. By Friday, the shampoo and conditioner were mostly wasp bait. But then Friday afternoon happened, and Madison crossed a line that she could never uncross. We were standing at the top of the stairs, and I had said something about how her friends probably only liked her because she bought them things. She flew into a blind rage. She lunged at me and tried to kick me down the long wooden stairwell. If I had not grabbed the railing, I would have tumbled all the way to the bottom and probably broken my neck. While I was shaking and holding onto the rail for dear life, she leaned over and whispered in my ear that she was going to find a knife and stab me while I was sleeping. She said it with such coldness in her eyes that I knew she meant it. At that point, I realized that just using the wasp solution was not enough. I needed something even more disgusting. I needed something that would ruin her entire night and maybe her entire social life. I went into the bathroom and I grabbed a small plastic water bottle that I had been keeping hidden. I had decided earlier in the week that I would use urine as a weapon, but I had initially thought it was too far. I had a soft heart back then despite everything. But after she tried to kill me on the stairs, nothing was off the table. I had been keeping my own urine in that bottle, and I had been leaving it on the windowsill in the sun during the day to make it as nasty and concentrated as possible. It smelled like ammonia and death. I poured a generous amount of that sun-baked liquid into her shampoo and conditioner bottles. I shook them up really well so it would mix with the thick soap and the wasp bait. I was terrified she would smell it as soon as she opened the bottles, but I was banking on the fact that she was in a massive rush. As luck would have it, Madison was running late for her big concert. Her friends were supposed to pick her up in 30 minutes, and she had not even started her hair yet. She was screaming at my mom to find her boots, and she was frantically throwing things around her room. She rushed into the bathroom and jumped in the shower. I sat on my bed and listened to the water running. My heart was pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. I wondered if she would notice the texture or the smell. But Madison was a girl who used a lot of products. She had body washes and face scrubs, and she always finished her routine with a heavy cloud of cheap flowery perfume that smelled like a drugstore exploded. I heard her scrubbing her hair, and I heard her rinsing. She did not scream. She did not come pounding on my door. The steam from the hot water probably helped mask the initial scent, and the soap suds did the rest. After she got out of the shower, I heard her blow drying her hair, and the heat from the dryer probably helped set the wasp pheromones deep into her scalp. She sprayed so much of that perfume that I could smell it through the cracks in the door. It was an added bonus because it masked the underlying rot of the urine until it would eventually wear off at the venue. Once I heard the front door slam and her friend's car peel out of the driveway, I moved fast. I went into the bathroom and I poured out some of the tainted product from her bottles into the toilet. I replaced the missing volume with diluted flowery hand soap and water. I did this to cover my tracks in case she got suspicious later. We never really fought over toiletries, so I did not think she would look at the bottles too closely, but I wanted to be safe. I cleaned up the counters and made sure there were no drips of yellow liquid anywhere. Then I went downstairs and sat with my mom and acted like a perfectly normal 12-year-old girl. The hours passed slowly. I kept imagining the scene at the concert. It was an outdoor venue in the middle of a Tennessee summer. That meant heat and humidity and thousands of people packed together. But more importantly, it meant insects. In the South, the wasps and hornets stay active late into the evening, especially when there are bright lights and sugary drinks around. And my sister was now a walking beacon for every stinging insect in a 5-mile radius. She was literally a walking wasp trap. I went to bed early, but I could not sleep. I was waiting for the sound of the car. Around midnight, I heard the front door open. I did not hear the usual laughing and gossiping that usually happened when Madison came home from a night out with her friends. Instead, I heard crying. Real crying. Not the fake kind I had been doing all week. I stayed quiet and listened. I heard her heavy boots stomping up the stairs. She went straight into my mother's room. I crept to my door and opened it just a tiny bit so I could hear what they were saying. Madison was hysterical. She was telling my mom that she had the worst night of her life. She said that as soon as they got to the concert, these huge wasps started following her. She said she did not understand why they were only targeting her. Her friends were fine, but she had wasps buzzing around her head and landing in her hair all night. She had several red welts on her neck and her arms where they had stung her through her clothes. But the physical pain was not even the worst part for her. She started sobbing harder as she told my mom about her friends. She said that halfway through the concert, her friend Sarah had leaned over and asked if she had stepped in something gross. Then another girl named Ashley said that something smelled like a dirty bathroom, and they all started looking around. Madison said she tried to play it off, but as the night went on, and the sweat from the heat started to mix with her hair products, the smell became undeniable. The girls in her friend group kept mentioning that something smelled bad, but they could not tell exactly where it was coming from at first. Eventually, they started moving away from her. They told her she smelled like a kennel or a porta-potty. She was terrified that they all realized it was her hair. She told my mom she felt like a social pariah. She said she ended up leaving the concert early and calling an Uber because she could not stand the way her friends were looking at her. My mom was trying to comfort her and telling her that maybe it was just the smell of the outdoor venue or maybe someone else had spilled something on her. But Madison knew. She could smell herself now that the perfume had faded. She spent the next hour in the shower scrubbing her hair until her scalp was red. I went back to my bed and pulled the covers over my head to muffle my laughter. I cannot truly describe the amount of joy I felt realizing that my plan had played out perfectly. It was a feeling of pure satisfaction that I had never felt before. For the first time in my life, I had power over her. She was so distraught about the whole ordeal that she did not even have the energy to lash out at me for the next 2 weeks. She stayed in her room and refused to see her friends. She was convinced that everyone at school would think she was a girl who did not bathe. The psychological damage I did to her vanity was far greater than any physical bruise she had ever given me. That was the one and only time I have ever acted on a revenge fantasy, but it was enough to last me a lifetime. Now that I am an adult, I look back and I do not feel an iota of regret. People might think it was gross or mean, but they did not live in that house. They did not see her try to drown me or hear her threaten to kill me in my sleep. They did not see the way she hurt our dog. I believe in consequences, and Madison finally got hers. She is still a difficult person today, but she never messed with me like that again. I think on some level she knew I was capable of something even if she could never prove it. We do not talk much now, and that is exactly how I like it. I live my own life in Franklin, and I am happy. Every time I hear the buzz of a wasp in the summertime, I just smile to myself. I would gleefully do it again without hesitation if I had to go back in time. Some people say that living well is the best revenge, but I think a little bit of fermented urine and wasp bait helps too. It taught me that I am not a victim and that I have the strength to protect myself. My sister spent years trying to make me feel small, but in the end, she was the one crying on the floor because she smelled like a sewer. That is a memory I will cherish forever. It was not just about the smell or the stings. It was about the fact that she finally felt what it was like to be unwanted and stared at. She felt the shame that she had tried to force on me every day of my life. When she came home that night crying to my mother, it was the first time I saw her as a human being who could be hurt. Up until then, she seemed like a force of nature that I could not stop. But she was just a girl who cared too much about what people thought of her. I took her biggest strength, which was her social status, and I used it to crush her. The 2 weeks of peace I got after that were the best 2 weeks of my childhood. I could pet Buddy without fear. I could walk through the house without flinching. I could finally breathe. It is funny how a little bit of creativity can change your whole life. I do not recommend that everyone goes around putting gross things in their siblings' shampoo, but for me, it was a survival tactic. It was my way of saying that I was still here and I was not going to go down without a fight. Looking back on it now, as a 22-year-old woman, I see that I was just a kid trying to find some ground to stand on. I am proud of that 12-year-old girl. She was brave and she was smart. She took a terrible situation and she found a way to win. And honestly, that is the best kind of story there is. My life in Franklin is very quiet now, but I will always have that secret. It is a reminder that even when things feel impossible, there is always a way out if you are willing to get a little bit dirty. My sister might have been the one with the loud voice and the heavy hands, but I was the one with the plan. And in the end, the plan is what mattered. I still see her at family gatherings during the holidays, and she is still as vain as ever. She spends a lot of money on her hair, and she always smells like expensive perfume. I just sit across the table from her and eat my turkey, and I think about that night at the concert. I think about the wasps and the smell and the look on her face when she realized her friends were disgusted by her. It makes the food taste better. She has no idea why I am smiling, and she never will. That is the beauty of it. True revenge does not always have to be a big dramatic scene where you tell the person exactly what you did. Sometimes it is better to just sit back and watch them fall apart while you keep your secrets to yourself. It is more powerful that way. It keeps the upper hand in your pocket. I am a grown woman now, and I have moved on from the anger, but the satisfaction remains. I hope she remembers that night every time she smells a flowery perfume or hears a buzzing sound near her ear. I hope it haunts her just a little bit like she haunted me for all those years. It is only fair after all. That is my story, and I am sticking to it. I do not need anyone to tell me it was wrong because I know in my heart it was the only way to save myself from her. And if I had to do it all over again, I would use a bigger bottle. The humidity in Tennessee can be brutal, but that summer it was my best friend. It made sure the smell stuck and the wasps stayed hungry. It was the perfect storm for a perfect revenge. I learned that day that I am a Turner and we do not give up. We just find better ways to win the war. I spent years after that event observing people and learning their weaknesses. Not because I wanted to hurt them, but because I wanted to make sure no one ever had that kind of power over me again. Madison was my first and greatest teacher in the art of self-preservation. She taught me that if you are going to strike back, you have to do it in a way that leaves no fingerprints. You have to be the one who looks innocent while the world crumbles around your enemy. That is the lesson I took into my adulthood. I am successful now, and I have good friends and a life I love. But deep down, I still have that spark of fire that I found when I was 12. It is the part of me that knows how to fight dirty when life gets unfair, and I have my sister to thank for that. Without her abuse, I might have stayed a quiet and scared little girl forever. But because of her, I became a woman who knows how to handle herself. I became someone who can turn a nightmare into a victory. So, in a strange way, I guess I should thank her. But I think I will just stick to remembering the smell of that shampoo instead. It is a much better memory. The way the light hit the red welts on her skin as she cried to our mother is something I can still see if I close my eyes. It was poetic justice in its purest form. She tried to ruin my life, and I just ruined her hair for a night. It was a small price for her to pay for years of cruelty. And the fact that she never found out it was me makes it even sweeter. It is my little victory that I carry around like a trophy. I am Jessica Turner, and I am no longer afraid of the dark or the stairs or my sister. I am the one who wins. The social consequences for Madison were actually longer lasting than I expected. For months after that concert, her friends would make little jokes about her needing a better deodorant or asking if she had washed her hair lately. You could see her flinch every time someone mentioned a smell. She became obsessed with cleanliness to the point of it being a problem. She would shower 3 times a day and carry around wet wipes in her purse. My revenge had created a lasting complex in her mind that she could not shake. Every time she looked in the mirror, she was not just seeing a pretty girl anymore. She was seeing someone who could be humiliated in an instant. It took away her invincibility. It took away the armor she used to bully me. She realized she was vulnerable. And that was the greatest gift I could have given myself. I watched her go from a confident bully to a nervous wreck in social situations. She was always sniffing the air and checking her clothes for any sign of a stain. It was like I had planted a seed of doubt in her brain that grew into a massive tree of anxiety, and I just sat back and watched it grow. Sometimes, I would even pretend to sniff the air when she walked into the room, and I would make a tiny face like I smelled something bad. She would immediately run to the bathroom to check herself. It was a game I played for a long time and she never caught on. It was my way of keeping her in check without ever having to say a word. It was the ultimate psychological warfare. I do not think people realize how much power a 12-year-old can have when they are pushed to the edge. We are observant and we know exactly where it hurts. Madison found that out the hard way. I am glad I did it. I am glad I stood up for myself in the only way I could. And I am glad that I can tell this story now and laugh about it. It is a reminder that the underdog can win if they are patient and smart. So if you are out there and you are being bullied by someone who thinks they are untouchable, just remember my story. Remember the wasp bait and the sun-baked bottle. There is always a way to turn the tables. You just have to be willing to wait for the right moment and strike where it hurts most. And for a girl like Madison, that was her pride. Once her pride was gone, she had nothing left to hit me with. We are both adults now and we live different lives, but that week in June will always be the turning point for me. It was the week I stopped being a victim and started being a survivor. And that is a change that lasts a lifetime. I am thankful for the strength I found, and I am thankful for the peace I have now. My life is good, and I am happy, and that is the best revenge of all. But the wasp stings were a very close second. The memories of the buzzing and the crying still bring a smile to my face when I am having a bad day. It reminds me that I am capable of taking care of myself. It reminds me that I am Jessica Turner and I am a force to be reckoned with. I hope Madison has a good life, but I also hope she never forgets that night. I hope she remembers the feeling of the wasps in her hair and the whispers of her friends. I hope it keeps her humble. Because if she ever decides to be that monster again, she might find out that I have some new tricks up my sleeve. But for now, I am content to let the past be the past. I have my victory, and that is enough for me. The sun still shines bright in Tennessee, and the wasps still buzz in the summer heat, but I am not afraid of them anymore. They are just a reminder of a job well done. And every time I walk into a store and see a bottle of that expensive shampoo, I just laugh and keep walking. I know what that stuff is really for. It is for making sure bullies get exactly what they deserve, and it works every single time. My life is a testament to the power of a quiet revenge. I do not need a loud confrontation or a big apology. I just need to know that I held my own. And I did. I really did. I look at the old photos of us as kids and I see the girl I used to be. She looks so scared and small. But then I think about the girl I became after that week. She looks strong. She looks like she knows a secret that the rest of the world does not. And she does. She knows that even the biggest monsters can be brought down by a little bit of sticky bait and some southern ingenuity. That is the legacy I carry with me. It is a legacy of resilience and wit, and I would not change a single thing about it, not even the smell. Especially not the smell. It was the scent of freedom, and it was beautiful. I am Jessica Turner, and I am the architect of my own peace. My story is one of survival, and I am proud to tell it. It is a reminder to anyone who feels trapped that there is always a way out. You just have to look for it in the most unexpected places, like a wasp trap in the garage or a shared bathroom sink. The world is full of opportunities for justice if you are brave enough to take them. And I was very brave. And now I am very happy. And that is the end of my story. It is a long road from being a bullied kid to being a confident woman, but I made it. And I made it because I was willing to fight for myself. I hope this story gives someone else the courage to do the same. Not in the same way maybe, but in their own way. Because everyone deserves to feel safe and everyone deserves to have their voice heard, even if that voice is just a whisper in a bathroom at midnight. I am Jessica Turner, and I am finally free.